you told us that the universe only provides to the level that we think we are worthy. And that's, we all have this, most of us have this, that's part of this separation and illusion that when we come into this world, this belief, these negative and limiting subconscious beliefs of we are not enough, we are not worthy. And so even though we're using our 5% of our little conscious mind to try to manifest love and abundance and all these things, like if that 95% program is running we are not worthy, we're gonna keep attracting the same experiences.
Yeah, I think that's when mind and body are in opposition, right?
Yes.
So you could have all the intention you want, but if you're programmed to feel unhappy or suffering, then that information never makes it to the body, because we only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts that are equal to our emotional state, and we will never accept, believe, and surrender to any thought that's not equal to our emotional state. You may say, I'm abundant, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm whatever you want to say. You can affirm that, and your body's saying, no, you're not, dude, you're miserable. And that thought never makes it past the brainstem. So this is one of the things that I discovered last year that really has changed me in so many levels. I watched a group of people at an event really closely, and there were people that were healing and changing, and the group was really amazing. And I watched them on the last meditation, the walking meditation, because we do a lot of walking meditations. You've got to get good at doing it with your eyes open, right? So you got to become it. So I was just looking, the sun was rising on the beach in Cancun, and I was just walking by, and I was looking at all these faces. And we were seeing tears of joy on so many people rolling down their face. And, we actually collect those tears, and we look at the information in those, by the way.
Unicorn tears.
And I looked at those people, and I realized nobody is making them happy in this moment but them, right? It's a powerful moment that their body is actually, their bodies are so objective that they don't know the difference between the real life experience that would create that emotion that they're imagining in their future, or the emotion they're imagining in their future by thought alone, right? Their body was believing it was living in that life, and they were making themselves happy. And when they walked, I just noticed they were walking with such worth, not like entitlement, not like that. There was no arrogance. They were just worthy to receive, because they showed up for themselves every single day. They showed up when they could have said, it's too cold out, it's too warm out, it's too bright out, I don't want to get my feet wet, and whatever it is, I'm too handicapped, I'm too sick, I'm too old, and I'll never change. They showed up in spite of that. They kept showing up and overcoming that process of overcoming. That they reached a point where they felt worthy. They're really worthy of their future, because they showed up for themselves, and they sat with themselves long enough to feel so much better that they could care less if it happened, because it felt like it already happened. That's when the magic really starts to occur. So, yeah, we love the idea of worthiness, because I think when we do feel worthy, not like trying to feel worthy, it's like trying to forgive. When you finally overcome the emotion that keeps you connected to that person or that past event, you take your attention off it, and you take your power back. And that's actually you feel so good, you don't want to feel any other way any longer. Why would you make yourself miserable if you feel so good? It's not like you have to forgive. You just kind of let go. That's how worthiness is. You keep showing up, and you keep conditioning your body emotionally into that future before it happens. You keep reminding yourself how you are going to behave in your life with certain people in certain circumstances. You rehearse it in your mind. You make sure you install the circuitry. What belief do you want to fire and wire in your brain, and keep doing it until it becomes a belief, a thought you keep thinking over and over again? How do you want to remind yourself to think? How do you want to remind yourself to act? How do you remind yourself to feel? That becoming process, the side effect of that is measurable changes, not only in a person's biology, but ultimately in their life. But they are worthy now, because they're not feeling separate from, like, I'm going to wait for that great relationship to happen so I could feel love. They would never do that. They feel so much love, they feel like they're worthy of it, right? So they practiced feeling that emotion enough times that they could actually believe in that future. Because the moment you default and you return back to that familiar feeling of unworthiness, you believe in your past. Mm-hmm. And there's a story, by the way, that goes along with that. But they feel like they believe in their future because they can feel connected to their future. Mm-hmm. And if you can maintain that modified state of mind and body, that's why we do the walking meditations with your eyes open in your life. Get ready, because your life is going to change in mysterious ways. And why is that important? Because it's going to convince you to remember that you're the creator of your life instead of the victim of your life.
Oh my gosh. And let me just get my notes here, because there was one. Oh, I love, there's talking about the problem and getting to the future that you want. We one of the meditations, I don't know if it's the change box but we talk about, okay, there's a problem in our life and we want to manifest a different reality. We want the problem to go away. We want to manifest the solution. And there's got to be a potential in the quantum field in which the problem that I am facing does not exist. And that's where we go. There's got to be a potential in the quantum field. Again, we're experiencing 1% of reality. So in that 99%, I'm sure we can imagine a potential where the problem I'm facing does not exist. The solution is none of my business. The feeling into that potential, feeling what life would be like with that potential where the problem doesn't exist, that's our work. The minute that we start to predict or try to figure it out, then we're back in the 3D world and we're coming from lack and separation.
Exactly.
So
you got it.
Do I get it?
You got it.
So it's just so that's the work. And you have so many amazing meditations that you can download from your website. And you know, a lot of them are an hour or more. And people, you know, they go, I don't have an hour to meditate. But when you understand the meaning and all that you've taught us in this podcast and in the Advanced Week Long, when you understand that you're spending an hour overcoming you and getting into the void and getting into the present moment and allowing your brain to get in that coherent state where you are raising your frequency, upgrading your biology, you know, that what better hour can you spend? And changing matter is going to take forever. Yeah. But if you're spending that hour or 2 hours a day doing your meditations, I can't think of a more productive way to spend your time and start to manifest. And the synchronicities and the shifts that happen in your life are just, I mean, those are the kind of shifts I want to tap into.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it's a great point. I think the hardest part about it is making time to do it, and I just think that a lot of the programs that we live by every single day is to not believe that we have any effect on our life, you know, because if you did believe that, you would do it. So you would, in fact, you do it every day if you knew that you created your life, right? And you wouldn't let any thought slip by your awareness that you didn't want to experience. You'd be the kind of governor of your mind, right? So taking the time to do it means then you're going to have to forget about everything known. Your cell phone, your kid, you know, your partner, your job, your boss, your coworkers, your TikTok, your Twitter, you know, whatever it is that you keep your attention on, and you got to manage your attention. And it's so much more convenient to say, I'm not into this today. I don't feel like it. I don't have enough time. That's you staying the same, right? Don't expect anything to change because you haven't changed, right? So the chronic disbelief that comes along with this is just a program, right? Because when you start seeing evidence in your life, you're inspired to create, and you don't want the magic to end. In fact, you want it to keep going. So why would you stop doing that, right? So when you're reacting less to the circumstances in your life, then you're mastering your emotions. You master your emotions, you master your creations. Okay, that means there's got to be something else that I can live, something I can create, right? So if you don't know how, and we don't use any tradition or religious or any secular type of meditation, we just look at the data. We look at the music, we look at everything. We look at everything that we can come up with and being able to teach it better. But if you look at the information that goes along with it, I think people really have to understand what meditation means, and they really have to understand why we're doing certain things in certain ways, and they just don't know what to do, right? And the first thing you could say is, I can't do this.
And they think they're doing it wrong because they're not having these mystical experiences every time.
Yeah, and the mystical will never happen if you're trying to predict it, because that's the known. When you're predicting, you're tapping into the known. So if you're really saying there's a potential in the quantum field where this problem doesn't exist, then you literally have to lay down the very thing you used your whole life to get what you want for something greater to occur. And that's not one swing. That takes some practice to not kind of control that reality or predict that reality. If you truly created it, then trust the outcome. before your sensory experience. That takes a lot of courage to be able to live in that state, because it almost would look foolhardy and insane, and yet it's that process of trusting and changing your energy. That's when you start to see the changes in your life. So if people really start to really want to understand it and see that it's not something that's difficult to do, and we show that. Well, I asked the brain scientists, what percentage of people do their brains getting better? They said 100%. 100%. Wow, that's a lot. It's like their brains are working better, right? So if you knew that, you would do the work for that reason. If you knew you could change your biology, if you saw the person that you watched the testimonial 5 times, you have the same health condition, you're going to listen to everything they say. Mm-hmm. It's going to be so relevant to you. And you know, some of the times people say, I did my meditation and I felt so great. I felt good. My sleeping better, I had less pain, I had more energy, I was less fatigued, but my blood values didn't change, my scans didn't change. And anybody who's watching this person tell their story and say, I just realized that the other 15 hours of my day, I was a wreck. 1 hour against 15 hours, okay, I gotta get good at doing this with my eyes open. Okay, so how am I gonna be in this certain circumstance different than how I was? How am I gonna emotionally feel? So they're in the game change now. This is not just a technique. They know that the only way their condition is going to change is if they change, and they're doing their meditations to change, right? So you hear that from a person who's on the stage saying that. I guarantee you, when you sit down to do your work, you have to believe that it's possible for you. And if you believe in possibility, you got to believe in yourself. And if you believe in yourself, you got to believe in possibility. So people show up for themselves to actually practice it. And so we give them things to do. So they're not sitting there doing, there's intention behind everything we're doing, so they can produce the outcome.